Welcome to A Magical Life, Health, Wealth and Weight Loss. I'm your host, Magic Barclay, lead practitioner at Holistic Natural Health Australia and #1 best-selling author. In this podcast, I aim to give you practical tips on how to accelerate and sustain your health, increase your financial, spiritual and emotional wealth, and to look at something that haunts many of us needlessly, weight loss. In some episodes, I'll have guests available to give you even more tips, but in others, the floor is yours. Drop us a line at A Magical Life Podcast on Facebook and let me know what you would like to know more about. Now, sit back and enjoy, because it is time for you to create and truly discover a magical life. Welcome back to A Magical Life Podcast. I am your host, Magic Barclay, and today I'm joined by Karen Austen. Now, I normally abbreviate the bios that people send me before they come on, but I'm going to read you the whole one because this is absolutely fascinating. Karen is a behavioural change expert, mental health and wellbeing mentor, specialising in trauma, tension and stress release. She's a professional and accredited trauma release provider, heart math provider, life coach, Reiki master, wheel of consent facilitator, interplay leader, performer and storyteller operating in Australia. She works with individuals and groups to facilitate healing, creativity, innovation and freedom to all who are ready to change their life. Now, wait for it. Karen's bio gets even better than that. Utilising wisdom gained from living life to the full, a diverse career in the criminal justice system, along with extensive training and accreditations, Karen brings an authentic and inspiring style to personal transformation. She provides her clients with tools to change their life and helps them find the courage to make and sustain the changes they've always wanted to make. Karen has a wonderfully rich life story of overcoming adversity, abuse and trauma, and is a living testament to the transformation that is possible with a commitment to healing, discovering oneself and remembering freedom. In both her career and personal life, she has been an advocate for transformation, along with being a facilitator of change, healing and growth in her clients on individual and group levels. A career in criminal justice, including senior positions in legislation and policy, corporate development and training, leadership and management positions in community mediation centres, registrar of many courthouses around the state of New South Wales, has provided the perfect opportunity for the career development and personal transformation and success of many different people. Leaving criminal justice with only a 20% chance of working again provided the perfect impetus to discover her own passions, joys and fulfillment. Karen has the capacity to be and do whatever she puts her mind to, which has included a global journey and a deep inner journey. She has successfully implemented and managed large multi-week, multi-day and multinational events on 3 different continents, and now more recently, Karen has had the opportunity to play an instrumental part in supporting people recover from the catastrophic fires recently in Australia. This has enhanced her own personal growth and provided her with a wealth of personal reference points and experiences to offer to her new clients. Karen's gifts lie in helping individuals to identify their own passions, live with purpose, and release the words, thoughts, actions, behaviours, and beliefs that no longer serve them. Karen has a down-to-earth approach which appeals to people from all walks of life. She offers a safe and non-judgmental, personalised service to her clients to help them grow and develop with freedom. What an amazing bio. Thank you, Karen. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. It took me on a journey when you were reading it out. That was extraordinary.
Yes, definitely. We were just chatting offline before we got started with this episode, and we've lived like some similar pathways there. Tell me about your transformation from the desperate times to now.
Yes. Well, if people had have met me 15 years ago, they would have found me in a room on my own because I just couldn't bear to be in the same room as another person. Like one other person's energy was too much. And having that diagnosis or whatever, saying that I only had a 20% chance of ever working again, I thought, well, okay, I may not be out there working again. So, what can I do for the planet? Okay, I can be the healthiest person that I can possibly be. That will be my contribution to the planet. And just having that intention was an extraordinary start to an amazing global journey. It was, and I only see that looking back now. I thought, okay, I'm just going to be the healthiest person I can be. And, there was a whole year that I didn't sleep. I just couldn't sleep. And I would be in bed and rest. And then I would go and walk on the beach because that was what I could do. And I thought, okay, I'll pick up rubbish. So there was always a part of me that wanted to contribute in some way. And I can. And then one day I'm walking along the beach and I see an orange piece of paper, and oh my God, it was a $20 bill. There's my 20% chance of working again. I just realized it. And I thought, okay, I just got paid for cleaning up the beach. And I mean, what I realized too, okay, if I'm going to be operating at this level of existence, my intention is to be the healthiest person I can be. Okay, I have to find things that give me joy. And I've always loved storytelling and interplay. For all your listeners, magic interplay is the wisdom of the body. It's an improvised movement and storytelling, song and stillness body of work created by these people in the Bay Area of San Francisco. And I had been doing this work for a few years, and I thought, right, that gives me joy. I'm going to San Francisco. And they had this dance space in this apartment block, and they had a room upstairs in the apartment block that was not furnished. And so I went to the secondhand store and I bought a saucepan and a fry pan, and they gave me a mattress. And I would sleep, and then I would go downstairs and do a class. And then I would go back up and sleep. And then I would go back downstairs and do a class. And I stayed there for 3 months, which was extraordinary. So just allowing the body to move, allowing the body to have sound, allowing stillness on a level that I had not experienced before.
That sounds absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it was extraordinary. So that was, and funnily enough, a couple of years prior to that, I had been reading Indian fiction, and I had never been somebody who wanted to go to India. I had never been considered a spiritual journey or anything like that. But I had read 5 books in a row, and they were all Indian fiction. I thought, I must be going to India. I ended up in Melbourne and I went to a storytelling workshop, and it was storytelling as a healing art, looking at all the organs in the body and giving them protagonists and antagonists. And funnily enough, while I was there, I met an Indian doctor, and he took my pulse and he said that these are the things that are going on in your body in 30 seconds. And it had taken me years, like 2 or 3 years, to figure out, following the little map of symptoms. And he told me if I went to his clinic in India, it would change my life. And I thought, okay, I need a life change. It's going one way or the other right now. So let's go. So I've always been one that'd say yes to something and figure out how to do it when I got there.
I love that. I do that too. I have a decision, like a quick thought, and then I make a decision. I start doing the thing, and then I start thinking about whether it was probably the best thing to do.
Absolutely. And funnily enough, it's like it's a perfect example of throwing your hat over the wall because you figure out how to do it.
Exactly.
And so I go to India and I'm in this clinic for 6 weeks, and there's 2 books in English there. One is Autobiography of a Yogi. And I'm reading this book. It's blowing my mind. And out of nowhere, I thought, I must be going to the Himalayas. And then 6 months later, I'm coming to a friend's wedding in Sydney, and someone sends me a meditation invitation for the following night. I thought, oh, okay, I'm in Sydney, why not go? And it's a guru. I'm going to a meditation evening where there's a guru sharing practices and meditations and things like that. And of course, I did everything wrong. You know, I wore the wrong clothes, and like I just didn't have the context of this. What I did have was an incredible healing experience, and it was exactly the same as in India 6 months before. And so this illness, this 20% chance of ever working again, got me in touch with my joy, with my intuition, and then my soul. My soul had been tapping me on the shoulder for like decades, I'm sure, but it wasn't until I got to this insane level of ill health, or actually nervous system dysregulation, that I was still enough to get the message.
I think many people's souls are tapping them on the shoulder and they just don't know what that means, what that feeling is, or what it means you need to do next. And I think for many of us, when we get to a point of pretty much the end, like for me, it was, my cancer,
Mm.
and you get that tap on the shoulder and you're like, well, what the heck? What have I got to lose? But it's the tap that you've ignored for years.
That's
And
right.
it's not until, the buckets are completely empty,
Yeah.
you go, "Oh, what the hell? I'll do it anyway."
Yes, exactly. And I went on this crazy and amazing healing journey. I did end up in the Himalayas. I ended up as a chef or the cook in an ashram. I ended up being, this was in Colorado. I ended up being the ashram manager. I ended up being the production and event manager for some of the huge events that we had in Colorado, in Chicago, in India, in Brussels, in London. And so bit by bit, I was able to master my mind, I suppose. It took me a while because if you imagine we have this autonomic nervous system, this part of the reptilian brain, and it's our first brain, and it's still there looking out for our survival. And if it is dysregulated, if our nervous system, our peripheral nervous system is dysregulated, it is the things that controls our words, it controls our beliefs, it controls our thoughts, it controls our actions and behaviors.
So true. Now, I've spoken about the reptilian brain to the listeners before, but to give them just a quick reminder, it's the first checkpoint. It's where we seek pain or pleasure. So it's where the brain actually decides, is this thing going to kill the person or is it going to help build this person? So it
Yes,
really jumps in. It's where we feel hot and cold. We feel fear or freedom. It makes those split decisions before the other parts of the brain can come in.
absolutely. And how cool. It's been there to forward our evolution as a species. And then there became a moment in time where we forgot how to down-regulate. We forgot how to down-regulate that nervous system. And so many of us, for many of us and me, very clearly that mobilization, that fight or flight, that looking for the threat and that hypervigilance, that was on in hyperdrive. But then also the other part of it, the freeze part. How many times, I mean, I'm sure yourself, Magic, and maybe some of your listeners have been frozen in the spot at times. They've not been able to speak up. They've not been able to move. A lot of people out there are blamed when they've been sexually assaulted that they didn't fight back. And that's an even higher level survival function. And so you've got these two parts of the brain. One has you mobilized and the other one has you frozen. And if they're not down regulated, it's like the brake and the accelerator are stuck on. And some people may have these symptoms of overworking, people pleasing, even procrastination or irritability, things that we're doing more of, like we might be more withdrawing, we might be having more fights in our relationship, we might have more really bad or poor eating habits, we might have more episodes of burnout or headaches. Like all of these little symptoms are things telling us our nervous system has not downregulated, has not come back to this beautiful rhythm that we have as human beings. So if you can imagine, all we really are is an amoeba, like a jellyfish. Imagine a jellyfish in the ocean. It's in its natural element and it's expanding and contracting and it has this beautiful flow. And we have the same capacity to pulsate. We expand and we contract, and we're in our natural element, this incredible energetic environment that wants to serve us. But if we're stuck in contraction, so many opportunities for connection, for love, for even building wealth and health just pass us by.
That is so true. And, we were talking about being in an abusive relationship, and I was saying to you, Karen, offline, that the registrars at the courthouse were my saving grace. They were looking after me, and that was because I was in my reptilian brain so much. I was frozen, and people from the outside would say, "You are so unhappy and you're in so much danger. Why are you still there?" For 14 years, I had people say, "Why don't you leave?" I could not leave. I was just stuck in that moment of existing. And at that time, existing was all I thought I had.
Exactly. And what many people who say, "Why don't you leave?" don't understand is when we go into those fight, flight, freeze modes of being and behaviors, there's a deep contraction of muscles in the body, the psoas muscle. And it is a muscle that mobilizes us into fight, flight, or freeze. So there is a movement in the muscles. The blood flow changes so that these muscles can fight or flight, and which is absolutely perfect. What we need to be able to do is bring that mobilization out, discharge. So when the brain sends out those chemical communications to the muscles, you need to run, you need to hide, you need to do this, all the adrenaline, the cortisol, it just goes throughout the body for us to take an action. If we don't take that physical action, those chemical communications get stuck in the muscles. And then if it's stuck in the psoas muscle, although the psoas is not physically connected to the brain, they do have a communication connection. So if the psoas muscle is still really activated, it is telling the brain, "We're in danger, we're in danger, we're in danger." The brain is sending out the chemicals take the action, take the action, take the action. But what happens if we don't release those deep contractions in the body? We get these tension patterns, and those tension patterns rearrange the personality. It's amazing. The mind and the personality have to readjust and rearrange themselves to fit in to a tense body, and it rewires the brain.
It totally does. And you were saying about the personality. I look back now at the person that I was when I was trapped, when I was stuck. I don't even know who that person was. I became someone that wasn't me, simply for survival.
Absolutely. And that's it. And that was the clue for me when I'd done so much mental work. I'd done so much emotional work. I was living in an ashram, and I was safe, but I didn't feel safe. And I would have these overreactions still, like someone would open a door and I didn't hear that they were there, and I would just jump out of my skin automatically. And someone would say something and I would just react with this level of anger. And I thought, there's still fear in the body somewhere. And I don't even know how that came to me. And then one day, I saw this doctor, and she sent me a book, and I read the book in one weekend. I taught myself the exercises because it made so much sense to me. There was still fear in the body. My nervous system was still locked in. My behaviors and words and thoughts could not change until I could downregulate the nervous system. And so I wrote to this doctor and I said, "Thank you so much for this." And she said, "He's teaching here in Phoenix next week." I said, "Right, I'm in," because I was in Phoenix. My spiritual teacher had told me to go to Phoenix, so I did. And I was in a room with 50 people, and we were all learning this practice. And it was too much for me to learn it that way, because my nervous system was so dysregulated. And so I created a way to learn it for myself that really worked with me. You know, some people can just go and learn this by a book and they're done. Some people can go and learn it by a TRE provider and they can do 3 sessions and they're done. And they go, because this body of work is a paradigm shift in how we deal with trauma. It's to put the healing in the hands of the individual when they're ready, when they can regulate themselves. So I thought, great, I'm tired of always having to go somewhere to be healed. I want some autonomy and agency around who I am as a being.
That sounds so good.
Yeah. Yeah, and so of course I trained to become a provider of the work. I wanted to share this message with everybody. You don't have to be stuck. You can find safety in the body. And when you feel safe in the body, the world is your oyster. It really is. I'm not sure about you, Magic, but did you ever wander around the world thinking there was a movie running?
Yes, I actually did. And even not just wandering around the world, but wandering around Melbourne. When I first came to Melbourne after leaving my abuser, I would wander around and just look at things and going, am I really here? Is this really happening? Or am I in a movie scene and someone's going to shout cut and everything will, stop?
Yeah.
I was just completely out of body for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. I used to wander around Bronte, my favorite beach, and I'd see all of these people having picnics and barbecues in the parks, and it was like I was observing from another planet, like, and there was such a deep sense of aloneness and what's wrong with me? Where, yeah, how is it that I'm not seen, I'm not heard? How is it that I just feel so much like a reject? Am I the only person on the planet that is a reject and they forgot to throw me back?
I felt like that when I would see my friends in relationships and they'd be holding hands with their significant other, and I'd just go, "Yeah, I don't believe that." Like, I'm seeing it, but I don't believe it because my inner story had been something so different for so long
Yeah,
that I
yeah,
would actually get angry when they would be all lovey-dovey with each other if we all went out for dinner or something. I go, "Are you for real? Like, really? You have to do that now?" I am so angry because I know it's fake. It's got to be because my experience for 14 years has been the opposite.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely understandable. Understandable. It I had to travel the world and stay in other people's homes so that I could get a picture of what home is. And so I've got amazing homes all around the world. My friends, I'm just part of their family. Um, yeah, it was like, oh, okay, so that's what it looks like. Okay. And still for a long time, I didn't think it was possible for me until I found the answer around what it takes to feel safe in the body and how to bring the nervous system back, because we need it to mobilize and then we need it to come back to normal. We need the parasympathetic part of the nervous system that rest, digest. And we need the sympathetic part of the nervous system that mobilizes us to take action. And we just need them to pulsate. And we became more mental focused. And when that happened, we started to suppress the body's natural way of discharging that adrenalized energy that we didn't completely use. And so we have, and I'm sure many of your listeners have done this at some stage. Their body has tremored a little bit, it's shaken a little bit. And normally we may experience it if we have to make a tough phone call. Sometimes public speaking will start this little shake. Now, people think that's a symptom. And it's not. It's the body's natural way of discharging this buildup of adrenaline, this buildup of energy that wants us to take an action. And so I'm all for reframing these little shakes, these little tremors, not as a symptom, as a solution.
That brings me to an important question, Karen. What can your expertise with TRE and with your life experiences do to help people accelerate their health, be it emotional, spiritual, or physical?
Oh, magic. It is magic because what it does, very gently, it's like very gently. So I normally see people for 4 sessions, either in a group or individually. And what I do is I teach them about their nervous system. We have a look at what parts of their nervous system they may be more dominant than not, because there's some very specific behaviors and thoughts that relate to the different parts of being social, being able to connect, being in the fight mode, being in the flight mode, and being in the freeze mode. So I teach them a set of exercises, and then we just watch with absolute curiosity what the body does with that. And I have them lying on the ground and have their legs in a specific position, and their body just slowly starts to come alive with involuntary, non-conscious control movements, which is what we want. Like sometimes we'll go for a run, or we'll go and do exercise, and we get some level of relief, and that is still conscious control. However, because we're playing with the autonomic nervous system, that non-conscious, it's automatic, that's the part of the nervous system we're bringing online. so that the body and the nervous system can have homeostasis. And so we watch out for, like, the nervous system will give us little signs and the body will give us little signs when it's had enough. So the focus is really on teaching, facilitating the person, the client, to access and notice those little signs so that they become fluent in the language of their body.
What else can you teach them about their body? So we've talked about the physical, about the homeostasis. I know that you talk a lot about emotional literacy. Can you tell the listeners what that's about?
Yes. So emotional literacy took me a long while to get it. In my healing journey, I feel like I've had to go through every single class on mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual. So you learn the primary emotions, the ones that happen before thought. So there are emotions that happen before thought that get you into action. If we don't do the right action, what they then do, they come around and they go through another part of the brain, and then we start overthinking. And when we come to the thinking part of the brain, we'll get another emotion, but it's a secondary emotion. And often, so if we look at anger as the primary emotion, and our action would be to say, hey, you've overstepped the boundary here, that's not okay. If we are frozen and we can't say that, what happens, it comes through and then we start thinking about the situation and we may become resentful. And so we will take an action out of resentment. But when we usually take an action out of resentment, there'll be a mean or a nasty aspect to it. And it's not bad or wrong. It's just that we didn't have the capacity to take the action from the anger rather than the resentment. So we learn what your maps are around the emotions that arise when you are in a particular part of the nervous system. And then we come back to the body. It always comes back to the body because emotions are chemical communications and we feel them as sensations in the body. And so when we can track the sensation and be with the sensation, which is the chemical communication of an emotion, we can discharge it in the body so we're not trapped by it. The emotion is not good, bad, right or wrong. And we've made them that way. And we come to it with absolute non-judgment. It's like you are soothing a baby that is upset. We would never go mad or blame the baby. And we would just love it and welcome. And we can do that in increments because we can't always welcome the intensity all at once. So we play like we're on a swing. Imagine a time on a swing. We might come out and touch it for a second and then go back to the safety. And then we come back and touch it for a second. And so I help people facilitate their own understanding of building capacity with those intense emotions and in those intense sensations and those intense feelings that are in the body that we don't want to feel.
Just on those intense feelings and emotions, we're in a very strange time at the moment, Karen. We were talking about that earlier. And people are living in fear.
Yes.
Fear imposed by the government, fear imposed by the media, now fear imposed by the neighbours dobbing people in.
Yeah.
Like anyone would think we're in Nazi Germany again.
Yeah.
But, there's so much fear driving people. It's like that swing that we touch as a child is constantly on up. Now, listeners, I want to draw a picture for you here. Imagine a swing set in the park. The swing does not stay up by itself. The fear holds it up. And that is, if you can imagine a swing just up in the air in limbo by itself, you're imagining and you're thinking, well, that's crazy. Like, it can't do that. Gravity and the Earth's pull and rotation, it just can't do that. And yet you're living in so much fear that you are a swing stuck up in the air. It makes no sense. You have to discharge that. You have to live your life how you feel it. Not worry about what your neighbour is doing. Not worrying about what the media is telling you. They get paid to tell you these things. It's not always the truth. You can't be a swing stuck in the air living in fear. Wouldn't you agree, Karen?
Yes, fear is really debilitating for the body. It really, really is. And to be able to be with fear safely is really, really important. And some people will be able to do it with ease, and then some people will be able to do it with support. So it is certainly able to be navigated. You can see even with the fighting that's going on in the USA at the moment, and I'm sure in other countries. If you look at the things that are going on in the world, we have wars, we have refugees running, asylum seekers, and we have sanctions where other countries are putting sanctions on other countries. And then if you look at us as an individual, we fight, we run away, and we withdraw. Coming back to the nervous system, when we get to heal our nervous systems, we absolutely can bring peace on the planet. Absolutely. Because we are not individuals. There's this individual body. We are all connected. Our nervous systems are connected. So if we are experiencing fear in the family, then fear just generates itself. And if we're feeling fear in a community, it becomes this energy virus. And you can see it in those external patterns in the world of war, asylum seekers, people running for their life. I don't mean that anything bad about them. It's just that they're the action they're taking and the sanctions that we place. So it is possible to be with intense emotions once you know how to do it. It really is. And these are the things that we just were not taught. And there's a whole world of cross fertilization of specialist modalities that are bringing to life. If there is something happening in the body, that's where we have to start the healing. And it changes the beliefs and it changes your capacity. It builds capacity to be with intensity and still be completely aligned with yourself, to make conscious choices, to create your own world. At the moment, what's happening is the external world appears to have more power than we do. And so we're reacting to this external world when reality can be that the internal power of each individual has the power to create the external world.
Exactly. I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah.
Now, Karen, what are your top 3 tips to creating wealth? When we're talking wealth, we're talking not just financial, but also personal and emotional wealth.
Finding safety in the body, feeling safe. When you feel safe in the body, you have the capacity to see all of the opportunities in front of you and create and innovate. You have the capacity to bring your passion alive. And that passion comes alive through the body and through our relationships with others. So the breath, where is your breath? Because the breath is inspiration. Where is the breath in the body? How much do you move your body? Just put some music on and dance. Find freedom in the body. Even if there's no one watching, I don't care if someone's watching or not, dance. So the breath, dancing, and go and have a look at a tree. this amazing part of nature. Rub your hands over the bark and the leaves. Find the texture. Bring your awareness to your hands and then look at the tree. See the abundance that's everywhere. And it comes from this tactile capacity of being in the body and allowing it to feel itself and the pleasure of nature. Breath, body, and nature. They're the things that will bring life, creativity, and abundance.
And those three things will create your wealth. I love the analogy of the tree, not just seeing the life that it has, the life force, but when you're looking at the bark of a tree, you can see the story it has to tell. You
Yeah.
may even see like a colony of ants climbing up it, or a glider sitting up in it, or something, but it will have its own story.
Yes. And the tree has a symbiotic and an obligatory relationship with the plants around it, the insects around it, the birds, the little critters that live in it. It's a whole information system, a whole communication system, just like our body. Our body is not a physical entity that's separate from the mind and the emotions. The mind, body, and emotions are a whole information system. And they are so dependent on the regulation of the nervous system, the freedom that it has into mobilize and then down regulate. So, the most important thing I would love to leave your listeners with, Magic, is the capacity to regulate your mind and your emotions and your behaviors when they are mobilized, and then to bring them back in alignment with values, their own personal values, is the biggest gift each person can give themselves.
And look, Karen, we do talk about one other thing here, and that is weight loss.
Yes.
What would be the thing that you tell listeners that they need to address in regards to weight loss?
I know I'm probably sounding like a broken record because I'm going to come back to feeling safe. If you don't feel safe in your body, weight loss is not going to happen.
That is so true. I used to say back in the days when I had a gym, which I started because I had my own weight loss issues, I used to say that the fat was like an armor, like a suit of armor. If you don't feel safe, you won't lose weight
Yeah.
because you're going to build this armor of protection around you.
Yes.
Whether it be from workmen on a work site wolf whistling at you, or from an abusive partner, or safety from your own feelings that you don't feel you can address at the time.
Yeah.
Weight is often an armor, and same for people who can't gain weight at all.
Yeah.
They see their thinness as an armor.
Yeah.
Not that they're consciously thin. I have a very dear friend who is quite a slim lady. She just can't put weight on, but that's her body trying to protect her from what could happen because
Yeah.
she doesn't feel safe.
Yes. Yes. And the autonomic nervous system is the peripheral nervous system. A part of it is the peripheral nervous system. And so it goes to the digestion, where you can have a cold, wet blanket over your metabolism. It goes to the immune system, so it suppresses the immune system. You can't fight off bugs and viruses. It touches the endocrine system. So if the adrenals are on hyperdrive, it will eventually pull energy from the thyroid gland. The reproductive system, if the body doesn't feel safe, why would it consider allowing procreation? It goes to the cardiovascular system, so that deals with circulation, blood pressure, and heart issues, so health. It goes to the brain. So if there's brain fog, you don't have access to executive function, you don't have access to habit control, planning. You just don't have constant access to that. And the biggest thing is, if you don't feel safe in the body, your capacity to have a deep, abiding, fulfilling, intimate relationship is limited, because not feeling safe in the body, you don't feel safe in the external world, you don't feel safe relating. And the belief is that the world is out to get you. So why would you take action to build wealth? Why would you take action to build health? Why would you take action to be in relationship?
Exactly. Oh, I've just loved listening to you talk today, Karen.
Magic, thank you so much. It's just been glorious, and it's just been fabulous to speak with you, knowing a little bit of your story and knowing where you've come from, and being of service to so many others, providing this service, knowing that there is an answer for so many people to live a magical life.
Oh, thank you.
No, you're so welcome. Thank you.
Now, Karen, people can find you at various places on the social media. So you have a Facebook group called Living and Loving Unleashed. People
Yes.
can find you on Facebook at Karen.Austen. That's AUSTEN3. You're on LinkedIn, Karen Austen, and you're on Instagram at RubyRose2810. Now, before we sign off from this really enlightening episode, we love freebies here. This is a free service for our listeners, and we do love to give them a little gift. What can you offer the listeners today?
I would love to offer your listeners an ebook, and it's called Dignity: 10 Steps to Revealing Your Authentic Value, Your True Value.
That sounds beautiful.
Yes, I'm not someone who wants to raise people's value. I know their intrinsic value, and it's about them revealing it to themselves. I mean, everyone is a glorious, magnificent being, and I know it's there.
Beautiful. Thank you, everyone, for listening today. That was episode 23, Feeling Safe with Karen Austen. Episode 24, you have me talking to you about shadow values. And a lot of our speakers and guests till now have spoken about shadow values briefly, but we're actually going to explore them in depth. So that's going to be an episode really worth listening. Now, for now, I'd like to thank Karen for joining me today. Listeners, please go forth and create your magical life. Thanks for listening today. Please subscribe to hear future episodes, leave a review, and share this podcast. You can follow us on Facebook at A Magical Life Podcast or at Holistic Natural Health Australia. That's holistic with a W. You can find us on Instagram at Holistic Natural Health or at www.holisticnaturalhealth.com.au. That's where you'll access all sorts of articles, freebies, and more.